September 14th, 1967. Park House, Sandringham. 6-year-old Diana Spencer sat hidden behind the grand staircase, her small hands pressed against her ears, but she could still hear the screaming. Her father, Earl Spencer, was in one of his rages again, and this time it was worse than ever before. What Diana witnessed that night would haunt her for the rest of her life, shaping every relationship she ever had. But the most shocking part wasn't what her father did to her mother. It was what he did to Diana herself when he found her watching. But what nobody knows is the secret Earl Spencer kept hidden for decades, and how it destroyed Diana's ability to trust anyone. The night that changed everything. September 14th, 1967, 11:47 p.m. Little Diana had been woken up by the shouting downstairs. At 6 years old, she was used to her parents fighting, but tonight felt different. Tonight felt dangerous. She crept out of her bedroom in her white nightgown, her bare feet silent on the cold wooden floors of Park House. The Spencer family estate felt enormous and scary in the darkness, but Diana needed to know what was happening. As she reached the top of the grand staircase, she could hear her father's voice booming through the house. "You're not fit to be a mother, Frances. You're not fit to be a Spencer." Diana's mother's voice was barely audible through her tears. "Johnny, please, the children will hear. The children." Earl Spencer's laugh was cruel. "The children would be better off without you." Diana pressed herself against the banister, trying to see what was happening in the drawing room below. What she saw would never leave her memory. But wait, you haven't seen the most shocking part yet. What her father did next. The violence Diana witnessed, 11:52 p.m. Same night, through the gap in the staircase railings, 6-year-old Diana watched her father grab her mother by the shoulders and shake her violently. Frances Spencer was crying, pleading with her husband to stop. "Johnny, you're hurting me." "Good," Earl Spencer shouted. "Maybe pain will knock some sense into you." Diana had never seen her father like this. During the day, he was the perfect English gentleman, charming, well-dressed, respected in society. But at night, behind closed doors, he became someone else entirely. "You think you can just leave?" Earl Spencer continued. "You think you can take my children and run off with that man?" Diana didn't understand what her father meant about that man. She was too young to know that her mother had been having an affair with wallpaper heir Peter Shan Kidd. "The children need their mother," Frances whispered. "The children need a proper mother. Not some unfaithful woman who abandons her family for another man." Earl Spencer raised his hand, and Diana squeezed her eyes shut, but the sound she heard next would echo in her nightmares for decades. Hold up. Diana's father was about to do something that would traumatize her forever. The moment Diana learned to fear men, 11:55 p.m. The breaking point. The slap echoed through Park House like a gunshot. Diana's eyes flew open to see her mother on the floor, holding her cheek, blood trickling from her lip. "That's what happens to women who betray their families," Earl Spencer said coldly. "Remember that." 6-year-old Diana felt something break inside her chest. The father she loved, the man who read her bedtime stories and called her his little princess, had just hurt Mommy. But then Earl Spencer did something even worse. He looked up and saw Diana watching from the stairs. "Diana," he roared, "get down here, now!" Diana's entire body started shaking. She had never heard her father use that tone with her before. Slowly terrified, she walked down the stairs on trembling legs. "Come here," Earl Spencer commanded. When Diana reached the bottom of the stairs, her father grabbed her small arm and pulled her close to where her mother was still lying on the floor. "Look at her," he said, forcing Diana to stare at her mother's bloody lip. "This is what happens to women who don't obey their husbands. Do you understand me?" Diana was crying now, but she nodded. "Good. Now go back to bed. And Diana," his voice dropped to a threatening whisper, "if you ever tell anyone what you saw tonight, the same thing will happen to you." But you're not ready for what Diana discovered the next morning. The morning after. The first lie. September 15th, 1967, 7:30 a.m. When Diana came down for breakfast the next morning, her mother was sitting at the table, wearing dark sunglasses and a high-necked sweater, even though it was a warm September day. "Good morning, darling," Frances said, but her voice sounded different, strained. Diana stared at her mother's covered face. "Mommy, why are you wearing sunglasses inside?" "I have a headache, sweetheart." But Diana could see the edge of a bruise peeking out from behind the sunglasses. She remembered her father's threat from the night before and said nothing. Earl Spencer walked into the breakfast room, whistling cheerfully as if nothing had happened. He kissed Diana on the forehead and ruffled her hair. "Good morning, my little princess. Sleep well?" Diana looked into her father's eyes, searching for the monster she'd seen last night. But all she saw was her loving daddy, smiling and normal. "Yes, Daddy," she whispered. "Wonderful. Remember, Diana, our family's private business stays private. That's what makes us special. That was the moment 6-year-old Diana learned her first lesson about men. They could hurt you and then pretend it never happened. Don't miss this detail, what Diana's father did to control her, the systematic destruction of Diana's trust. October 1967, a month later, Earl Spencer began a calculated campaign to turn Diana against her mother. Every day, he would pull Diana aside for special talks. "Diana, Mommy doesn't love us anymore," he would tell her. "She wants to leave us for another family. But Daddy, Mommy said she loves me. Actions speak louder than words, little princess. If Mommy really loved you, would she be planning to abandon you?" Diana was only 6. She didn't understand that her father was manipulating her, filling her young mind with lies and confusion. "I need you to be my special helper," Earl Spencer continued. "I need you to watch Mommy and tell me everything she does. Can you do that for Daddy?" Diana nodded eagerly. She wanted to make her father happy, wanted to earn his love and protection. "If you see Mommy talking on the phone, I need to know. If she gets letters, I need to know. If she goes anywhere, I need to know. Our family depends on you, Diana." At 6 years old, Diana became a spy in her own home, reporting on her mother's every move to her father. But here's where everything gets absolutely devastating. What happened when Diana's mother tried to leave? The custody battle that broke Diana. December 1967, 3 months later, Frances Spencer finally found the courage to leave Earl Spencer and file for divorce. But what Diana didn't know was that her father had been planning for this moment. Earl Spencer had been collecting evidence of Frances's affair, documenting every phone call, every meeting, every moment she spent away from the children. When the custody battle began, Earl Spencer used Diana as his secret weapon. "Diana," he said one evening, "Mommy wants to take you away from our beautiful home. She wants to take you away from me forever. Is that what you want?" "No, Daddy," Diana cried. "Then you need to tell the judge that you want to stay with me. Can you do that?" Diana was terrified of the strange men in wigs and black robes, but she did what her father asked. In court, she testified that she wanted to live with her father. What she didn't understand was that her testimony helped ensure her mother would lose custody of all 4 Spencer children. Frances Spencer was allowed only limited visitation rights. Diana would see her mother becoming a stranger, someone who felt guilty and distant during their brief, supervised visits. Wait, don't miss this shocking detail, how Diana's father celebrated his victory, the celebration that revealed everything. January 1968, after the custody victory. The night Earl Spencer won full custody of the children, he threw a party at Park House. Diana, now 7, watched from the top of the stairs as her father celebrated with his friends. To Johnny Spencer, one of the men raised his glass, who showed that unfaithful wife of his who's boss. "The children are better off without her," another added. "You did the right thing, Johnny." Earl Spencer laughed. "Frances thought she could outsmart me, but I had a secret weapon, my own daughter testifying against her mother." The men laughed, and Diana felt sick to her stomach. She suddenly understood what had really happened. Her father had used her to hurt Mommy. Diana was so easy to manipulate, Earl Spencer continued, not knowing his daughter was listening. "Children always believe whatever you tell them. A few stories about Mommy not loving her anymore, and Diana was ready to do whatever I asked." Diana ran back to her bedroom and cried herself to sleep. That night, she learned her second devastating lesson about men. They would use your love against you, but you haven't seen the most heartbreaking part. What this did to Diana's relationship with her mother. The mother who became a stranger. 1968, 1975, the lost years. For the next 7 years, Diana saw her mother only during brief, awkward visits. Frances had remarried and moved to Scotland with her new husband, Peter Shan Kidd. During these visits, Diana felt the weight of what she had done. Her mother tried to be loving, but there was a sadness in Frances's eyes that Diana had put there. "Diana, darling," Frances would say during their walks, "I want you to know that I never wanted to leave you." "Then why did you, Mommy?" Frances couldn't explain the complexities of an unhappy marriage and domestic abuse to her young daughter. "Sometimes grown-ups make mistakes, sweetheart." But Diana interpreted this as confirmation of what her father had told her. Mommy had chosen to leave. What Diana didn't know was that Frances was battling severe depression, feeling like she had failed as a mother, wondering if her children were better off without her. The distance between mother and daughter grew with each visit. Diana began to see her mother as the villain her father had painted her to be. This is where everything changes. Diana's teenage realization, the teenage awakening. 1976, Diana, age 15. When Diana was 15, she found a box of old letters in the attic of Park House. They were letters her mother had written to her father during the custody battle. Letters Diana had never seen. "My dearest Johnny," one letter read, "please don't take the children away from me. They are my whole world. I know I made mistakes, but I love them more than life itself. Please let me be their mother." Another letter was even more heartbreaking. "I miss tucking Diana in at night. I miss reading her stories. I miss being the one she runs to when she's scared. Please don't poison her against me. She's just a little girl." Diana sat in that dusty attic, reading letter after letter of her mother's desperate pleas to remain in her children's lives. That's when she realized the truth. Her father had lied about everything. Her mother hadn't wanted to abandon them. Her mother had been forced away, and Diana had helped her father do it. But wait, Diana's confrontation with her father about this discovery. The confrontation that changed everything. Same day, evening. Diana marched downstairs with the box of letters, her hands shaking with rage and heartbreak. "Father," she said, finding Earl Spencer in his study. "I found these in the attic." Earl Spencer looked at the letters, and his face went pale. "Diana, you shouldn't have. You lied to me." Diana's voice was shaking. "You made me think Mommy didn't love us. You made me testify against her in court. You used me to hurt her. Diana, you don't understand. My mother begged you to let her see us. She wrote you letter after letter asking you not to take us away from her." Earl Spencer stood up, and for a moment, Diana saw that dangerous flash in his eyes that she remembered from her childhood. "Your mother was unfaithful," he said coldly. "She broke our family apart, so you decided to break her heart, and you used your own daughter to do it. I protected you from her influence." Diana felt years of suppressed anger exploding inside her. "You didn't protect me. You traumatized me. You made me lie. You made me hurt the person who loved me most." Earl Spencer's mask finally slipped completely. "I did what I had to do to keep this family together. By destroying it, by making me complicit in your revenge." That was the moment Diana fully understood what her father was, a man who would use anyone, even his own children, to get what he wanted. Don't miss this detail, how this trauma shaped Diana's entire future, the pattern that haunted Diana's life, the psychological damage. This childhood trauma created patterns that would follow Diana for the rest of her life. Fear of abandonment. Diana became terrified that everyone she loved would eventually leave her, just like her mother had been forced to leave. Difficulty trusting men. Earl Spencer had shown Diana that men could appear loving while being manipulative and cruel behind closed doors. People-pleasing. Diana learned that love was conditional, that she had to be good and useful to earn affection. Guilt and self-blame. Diana carried the guilt of helping her father hurt her mother for decades. Need for approval. Having been manipulated by her father's approval and disapproval, Diana became desperate for validation from authority figures. When Diana married Prince Charles, she was unconsciously seeking the father figure who would finally give her unconditional love. Instead, she found another man who would manipulate and betray her. But here's the most shocking revelation. What Diana discovered about her father's true nature. The final revelation. Earl Spencer's secret. 1981. Just before Diana's wedding. Right before Diana's wedding to Prince Charles, Frances Spencer finally told her daughter the complete truth about the divorce. "Diana, there's something you need to know about your father. Something I could never tell you when you were young." "What is it, Mummy?" Frances took a deep breath. "Your father didn't just hit me that night you saw. He had been physically abusing me for years. The affair with Peter wasn't the reason I left. It was my escape from your father's violence." Diana felt the world spinning around her. "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because I was afraid if I told you, your father would take his anger out on you and your siblings. I thought if I left quietly, he would leave you children alone." Frances continued. "The custody battle wasn't about protecting you from my bad influence. It was about your father punishing me. He knew the cruelest thing he could do was take away my children." Diana realized that her father's greatest manipulation was making her believe her mother was the villain, when he had been the abuser all along. You're not ready for what this revelation did to Diana. The wedding day breakdown. July 29, 1981. Diana's wedding day. On the morning of her wedding to Prince Charles, Diana sat in her room at Clarence House, surrounded by the most beautiful wedding dress in history, crying. Her father knocked on the door. "Diana, are you ready, my little princess?" When Earl Spencer entered the room, Diana looked at him with completely different eyes. The man who was about to walk her down the aisle was the same man who had destroyed her mother and manipulated her childhood. "Father," Diana said quietly, "I know the truth now, about you, about Mummy, about everything." Earl Spencer's face went cold. "Diana, today is not the day for you. Ruined my ability to trust anyone. You made me afraid of love. You taught me that the men who claim to love me will eventually hurt me. Diana, I protected you. You damaged me. And now I'm walking down that aisle terrified that Charles will do to me what you did to Mummy." Earl Spencer had no response. For the first time in Diana's life, she had left him speechless. As they walked down the aisle of St. Paul's Cathedral together, Diana wasn't just marrying Prince Charles. She was trying to escape the psychological prison her father had built around her heart. But the damage was already done. This is where we understand the real tragedy. How Diana's father created her greatest fear, the prophecy that came true. The cycle repeats. Everything Earl Spencer had done to Francis, Prince Charles would do to Diana. Emotional manipulation and control, public humiliation through affairs, using the children as weapons, isolating her from support systems, making her question her own sanity. Diana had been programmed by her father's abuse to accept this treatment as normal. She didn't recognize the warning signs because this was what love looked like in her experience. When Charles began his affair with Camilla, Diana's first thought wasn't anger. It was, I must have done something wrong, just like Daddy said Mummy did. When Charles emotionally withdrew, Diana blamed herself, just like she had blamed her mother for making Daddy angry. Earl Spencer had unknowingly prepared his daughter to be the perfect victim for another manipulative man. But here's the most heartbreaking part, Diana's final realization. The mother-daughter reconciliation, 1995, 2 years before Diana's death. 2 years before her death, Diana finally had the conversation with her mother that she should have had decades earlier. Mummy, Diana said during a private visit, I'm so sorry for what I did to you. I'm sorry for testifying against you. I'm sorry for believing Daddy's lies. Frances Spencer, now in her 60s, took her daughter's hands. Diana, darling, you were just a child. You were manipulated by someone who should have protected you, but I helped him hurt you. You were 6 years old, sweetheart. The blame lies with your father, not with you. For the first time in her life, Diana felt her mother's unconditional forgiveness. Mummy, Charles is doing the same things to me that Daddy did to you. Frances' heart broke for her daughter. Then you need to leave, Diana. Don't make my mistake of staying too long. But the boys need a mother who is whole and happy, not one who is being destroyed by their father. Don't let Charles turn William and Harry into weapons against you the way your father used you against me. That conversation gave Diana the courage to divorce Charles and fight for her independence. The final truth, Diana's ultimate triumph over her father's legacy, Diana's greatest victory. Breaking the cycle, despite the psychological damage Earl Spencer inflicted on her, Diana made one crucial decision that changed everything. She refused to pass this trauma on to her sons. Diana made sure William and Harry knew they were loved unconditionally. She never used them as messengers in her war with Charles. She never made them choose sides. When Diana divorced Charles, she told her boys, Mummy and Daddy both love you very much. Our problems are between us, not with you. Diana broke the cycle of emotional abuse that had defined the Spencer family for generations. Her greatest revenge against her father wasn't success or fame. It was becoming the mother to William and Harry that she had wished her father would let Frances be to her. The truth, Earl Spencer's abuse of his daughter was subtle but devastating. He taught Diana that love was conditional, that men would use your emotions against you, and that family loyalty meant keeping secrets about abuse. This childhood trauma shaped every relationship Diana ever had. It made her vulnerable to Charles's manipulation because she had been trained from age 6 to accept emotional abuse as normal. But Diana's greatest strength was recognizing this pattern and refusing to continue it. She may not have been able to heal her own wounds completely, but she made sure her sons would never carry the same scars. Some fathers protect their daughters from the world. Earl Spencer taught his daughter that the world wasn't safe, especially the world of men who claimed to love her.